everyone, welcome to English with Miss Tia. In this video, we are going to learn degree of comparison. Degree of comparison is used to compare people, things, and animals around us. There are two kinds of degree of comparison. The first it is comparatives. In bahasa, it means lebih baik, lebih tinggi, dan sebagainya. And the second, it is superlatives. In bahasa, it means paling tinggi, paling baik, paling cantik, dan sebagainya. What can you say about these two rulers? You can say, the pink ruler is longer than the yellow ruler. Or, the yellow ruler is shorter than the pink ruler. The word longer than and shorter than, they are examples of comparatives. To compare one thing to another thing. Untuk membandingkan satu benda dengan satu benda yang lain. What can you say about the three rulers? The pink ruler is the longest ruler. Or, the yellow ruler is the shortest ruler. The longest and the shortest, they are the examples of superlatives. They are used to compare one thing to some other things. Untuk membandingkan satu benda dengan beberapa benda yang lain. First of all, let us discuss comparatives. It is used to compare two things, to people, to animals, etc. Digunakan untuk membandingkan dua objek. Let's see some example.
Are Lala and Sasa really twins? They don't look like twins. Yes, they are twins. But you are right, they don't look like twins. Lala is taller than Sasa. Yes, Sasa is shorter than Lala.
In the previous dialogue, we can see there are some sentences to show comparative. Sasa is shorter than Lala, and Lala is taller than Sasa. Now let us see the second example.
Look, the horse and the donkey look alike.
Yes, but the horse is bigger than the donkey.
Oh, I see. The donkey is smaller than the horse.
Can you guess what sentence is showing comparative? The horse is bigger than the donkey, and the donkey is smaller than the horse.
Look at the scale. The apple and the orange is the same size.
Yes, but the apple is heavier than the orange.
And the orange is lighter than the apple.
We can see comparative sentences in the previous dialogue. The orange is lighter than the apple, and the apple is heavier than the orange. After we see some examples of comparatives, can you tell me how to make comparatives? There are some rules to make comparatives. Rule number 1. The short adjective with one syllable, you just need to put ER after the adjective. Don't forget to use than. As we can see in the examples, long become longer than, short become shorter than, tall become taller than, small become smaller than, light become lighter than, plump become plumper than, young become younger than, old become older than, strong become stronger than, weak become weaker than, fast become faster than, slow become slower than, high become higher than, low become lower than, etc. There are some short adjectives ending as CVC, consonant, vowel, consonant. To make the comparative, you have to make the final consonant double and then put ER, then. Jadi untuk beberapa adjektif yang berakhiran dengan konsonan vokal konsonan, kalian harus membuat huruf konsonan yang terakhir di double, diikuti dengan ER dan then. For example, big become bigger than with double the G. Thin, thinner than, double N. Hot becomes hotter than. There are some short adjectives ending with E, so we just need to put R after the adjective and then followed by than. For example, nice become nicer than, wise become wiser than, large become larger than. There are some short adjectives ending in Y, so we have to omit the Y and change it into IER followed by than. Heavy become heavier than. Easy become easier than. Now we will move to rule number 2. The long adjectives. If the adjective is more than 2 syllables, so we need to put the word more followed by the adjective followed by than. Now let us see the example.
I got 90 in English and 65 in math. For me, English is easier than math.
I think so. Math is more difficult than English.
In the previous dialogue, we hear math is more difficult than English. More difficult than is one example of comparative. It used rule number 2 because the word difficult has 3 syllables. Karena kata difficult mengandung 3 suku kata, lebih dari 2 suku kata ya, sehingga kita tambahkan more di depannya dan than di belakangnya. Now let's see the other example.
It's really exciting. There are many flowers here.
I agree with you. I like roses. They are more beautiful than other flowers.
In the previous dialogue, we hear roses are more beautiful than other flowers. For long adjectives with more than 2 syllables, we put more before the adjective and the word than after the adjective. For example, difficult become more difficult than. Beautiful become more beautiful than. Expensive become more expensive than. Comfortable becomes more comfortable than. Interesting becomes more interesting than. Diligent become more diligent than, etc. Now we will see the rule number 3. The adjectives with 2 syllables. Some adjectives with 2 syllables use rule number 1. Beberapa kata sifat dengan 2 suku kata bisa menggunakan aturan nomor 1. For example, clever become cleverer than. Funny become funnier than. Pretty become prettier than. Easy become easier than, etc. While some other adjectives with 2 syllables use rule number 2. For example, handsome become more handsome than. Relaxed become more relaxed than. Now we will see rule number 4. These are called irregular adjectives. It has no specific rules to make the comparatives. Tidak ada aturan tertentu untuk membuatnya menjadi comparative. This is Patrice. Her math test score was 90 and her English test score was 75. So we can say Patrice's score in math test is better than her score in English. Or you can say Patrice's score in English test is worse than her score in math test. Better than and worse than are examples of irregular adjectives. Let's see the second example. Jenny has 10 English storybooks. The teacher has 24 English storybooks. We can say Jenny has less English storybooks than her teacher. Or the teacher has more English storybooks than Jenny. Less than and more than are examples of irregular adjectives. Now let us see some irregular adjectives. Good become better than. Bad become worse than. Little become less than. Many and much become more than. Far become further or farther than. After we see comparatives, now we are moving to separatives. It is used to compare more than two things, or people, or animals. Superlatives dipakai untuk membandingkan lebih dari dua objek. Let's see the example.
Your house is shady. There are some trees here.
The coconut tree, mango tree, and some other trees make my house green.
The coconut tree is the highest tree here.
And mango tree is the lowest tree.
In the previous dialogue, we hear the coconut tree is the highest tree, and the mango tree is the lowest tree. The highest and the lowest are example of paling tinggi, paling pendek. Paling dalam bahasa Inggris disebut sebagai superlatives. How to make superlatives? We can continue the rules number 1 until rule number 4 in comparative. Rule number 1. For short adjective with one syllable, we put the followed by adjective followed by est. As we can see in the previous dialogue, we see high become the highest, low become the lowest, long become the longest, short become the shortest, tall become the tallest, small become the smallest, light become the lightest, plump become the plumpest, young become the youngest, old become the oldest, strong become the strongest, weak become the weakest, fast become the fastest, slow become the slowest, etc. Some short adjective ending with CVC, consonant, vowel, consonant. So we put the followed by the adjective, and the final consonant is doubled followed by est. Big become the biggest, we double the G. Thin become the thinnest. Hot become the hottest. Some short adjective ending with E. So to make superlative, we put the before the adjective and then put est after the adjective. For example, nice become the nicest, wise become the wisest, large become the largest, etc. Some short adjective ending with y. So to make superlative, you put the before the adjective and then add iest by omitting the y. For example, heavy become the heaviest, easy become the easiest, etc. Untuk beberapa kata sifat yang berakhiran dengan y, kita hilangkan y-nya, tinggal kita tambah i, e, st. Now we move to rule number 2. For long adjectives with more than 2 syllables, we use the most followed by the adjective. For example, difficult become the most difficult, beautiful become the most beautiful, expensive become the most expensive, comfortable becomes the most comfortable, interesting become the most interesting, diligent become the most diligent, etc. Rule number 3. For long adjective with 2 syllables, it is almost the same as the comparative. Some adjectives use rule number 1 and some others use rule number 2. For example, clever become the cleverest, funny become the funniest, pretty become the prettiest, easy become the easiest. Some other adjectives use rule number 2. For example, handsome become the most handsome, relaxed become the most relaxed. Now we move to rule number 4 for irregular adjectives. The word good become the best, bad become the worst, little become the least, many and much become the most, far become the furthest. After we see about comparative and superlative, can you compare people, animals, and things around you using comparatives and superlatives? This is the end of our video. If you have any questions, please write in the comment. Thank you and see you in the next video.